Hello friends, welcome back. I'm Sachin from Team Decipher, and in last segment of this lecture, that is Gupta Age Art and Architecture, we learned about the types of temples which were made in Gupta era. So in today's lecture, we will be furthering our course and we will learn about little minute details about the temples and as well as the paintings and sculptures of the Gupta era. So moving on, Gupta style was basically influenced by Kushana, Mathura and Gandhara school of art and borrowed some common features of T-shaped doorways. How these T-shaped doorways were? They were like this. T-shaped doorways and decorated door jambs, sculpted panel with high relief, like this is one of the panel, as you can see here, the Ganesha Murti. So these doorway panels were highly decorated, and these were constructed by using sandstone. As you can see here, they are made up of red sandstone. Granite was also used, bricks were also used. So Gupta era temples added to this architectural heritage with horseshoe gavakshas. What are horseshoe gavakshas? As you are aware that shape of horseshoe is something like this. So the arcs which were made upon the gates were something made into this shape, and these were again decorated with panel motifs. So this was also developed during the Gupta era. The temple, apart from having these gavakshas, the entrance parts, they were having shikhras as well, which were also highly decorated, and they were topped with a ribbed disc ornamentation known as amlaka. I'll be showing you one such specimen later on in the slides. So these elaborated buildings are further decorated with a mass of ornate mouldings and sculptures set in this niche. So as we are saying, this Vishnu's famous sculpture, wherein the Gupta architecture, the square was considered as the most perfect form. So most of the time they were using square platforms to construct their temples upon. And temples were designed to be appreciated from all the sides. ऐसा नहीं था कि वो खाली doorways से ही अपने temples को decorate करते थे या ornamented करते थे. Basically उनका emphasis रहता था कि चारों दिशाओं से उसकी वॉल्स को डेकोरेट किया जाए, उसको एक ब्यूटीफुल आर्किटेक्चरल फॉर्म में. दे पीपल वर मोर comfortable with these sort of ornamental art rather than the plain things. Most temples, they also adopted a square plane with the single cubical garbhagriha in the center. As if, let me tell you it with a little rough drawing. See, this is the square plane on which the temple is built. Okay, and within this temple there is a small cube which is serving as the garbhagriha for this temple's main deity. यहाँ पर आपकी टेम्पल की मेन डीटी जो है स्थापित की जाती थी. एंड दिस इज द पार्ट, यू कैन से द एंट्रेंस पार्ट विद द गवाक्षा, एंड समवेयर atop this tube there was the shikhra part with the disc amalaka, which we talked about earlier. Okay, so moving on, this is normally entered by a short, this entrance, the entrance of the temple was normally entered by the short column porch set over a single highly decorated doorway with a projectile lintel. The columns can support a pot and foliage capital, and the roofs were generally flat. As in surviving examples, you can say you can see here the porch and the columns. This is the basic entrance. This there we are having the uh, flat roofs we were talking about there. So this is actually Taigwa temple, which is the perfect specimen we were talking about in our discussion. So whether all temples had a second floor, it is difficult to determine. But due to their often ruinous condition, the late 5th century C Parvati temple at Nachna, where it lies in Kutra, is notable for its surviving second story shrine room. You can see here, this is the first story after the stairs, and this is here atop, it is the second story. So Guptas were not only making single stories temple, but they were actually making up the two-story temples as well. But this is only the surviving remnant of the past. From the 6th century, the Gupta temples were built on a platform, Jagati, and its good example is this Dash Avatara temple here. Dashavatara temple is in Devgarh in Uttar Pradesh. So at Devgarh, the platform had reliefs that running around it, depicting scenes from Ramayana here. Depicting scenes from Ramayana, and in the center of this platform stood the principal shrine. This is the principal shrine, and these are the subordinate shrine, which we discussed in last slides as well. This particular sort of temple style is known as Panchayatan temple style, wherein a main deity's temple or shrine is standing in between, and it is surrounded by 4 other subordinate temple shrines. So this temple was without windows and assisted by the flight of steps on all 4 sides. As you can see, the steps are on all 4 sides, here, here and there. Just a moment, let me just change the color of the pen, and I hope other color will be more visible rather than this green one. Yeah. So the doorway, the typical, as we discussed, this is the typical Panchayatan style of temple building. It was basically typical of this Gupta era. Gupta temples were dedicated to a large number of Hindu gods rather than a single deity. So accordingly, architectural sculpture, they represent a wide range of gods. So these gods were depicted in the scenes from Hindu mythology, and the doorway to the square sanctuary tower of this Dashavatara temple, you can see this is the Dashavatara temple here, and we will watch its doorway. This is the doorway of this Dashavatara temple, and you can see there are so many ornamenting by the sculptures on the panel of the doorway itself. So these contain scenes from Hindu mythology, and the tower of Dashavatara temple is a fine example that carries sculptures of Vishnu, Brahma, Indra, Ganga and Yamuna, as well as attendants and Mithuna couples. As you can see in this is a enlarged version of this doorway sculptures. These are the corresponding figures, as you can see there. So the temple also carries on one of the most famous sculptures from panels from the ancient India. We saw it earlier as well, the Vishnu Antasayana panel. This is the particular panel we are talking about. The scenes contains many gods, but it is dominated by sleeping Vishnu, who rests on a multi-headed serpent Ananta, the Sheshnag, and floats on the waters of oblivion, whilst from its navel sprouts a lotus leaf on which sits Brahma, the creator of God. So this is what this mythological scene depicted on the Dashavatara temple. Now, let's talk about one of the other important temples from Gupta era, that is Bhitargam temple. Though its second story is ruined by the wrath of time, but still, besides the structures in stones, the Gupta temple architecture was also erected in brick. So this temple was actually a temple which was made up of bricks of Gupta times. So among the brick temples, the most famous one is the temple at Bhitargam. As I told you, it is in Kanpur district of Uttar Pradesh. So the beautiful designs on the body of the temple shows that artistic talent of the builders who could mold the bricks in various forms. As you can see, the bricks are even given the curves of the second story, and so they were molding the bricks as per their wishes. So the temple in Bhitargaon, Uttar Pradesh is one of the most complete surviving Buddha temples you can see. It is a rare and early example of Hindu temples constructed entirely of bricks, dating to almost 5th century. So, although it is damaged in its upper portion, as I told you, the four-sided and the curved Shikhra tower of the temple maintains its Gavaksha, which we discussed earlier, and shallow pilasters which diminish in size as the tower rises to a pinnacle. So these and the decorated capitals create frames in which were once set terracotta panels. These are the panels we are talking about. Few panels survives intact, but the examples from other sites demonstrate that they would have once shown lively scenes from mythology, as they were showing mythological scenes in Dashavatara temple. So, in particular, the figures of river goddesses, because we saw the prominence of river Yamuna and Ganga in the Dashavatara temple. So, Gupta builders were basically fond of depicting the river goddesses, especially on the entrance of the Dashavatara temple, or for that matter in Bhitargam temple. The panels still in their original position in the upper tiers of the tower display the faces which remind of gargoyles of European Gothic cathedrals. Now, this was enough for the cave architecture and the Gupta temple, and I hope you will be able to answer any question if arising from this area. So, now we'll set our eyes upon the Gupta sculptures. The Gupta period saw the classical phase of Indian sculptures as it did in the matter of temple architecture. They were under no external influence, mind you. So, the Gupta sculpture was at its best in the giving shape to the images of deities and divinities, both of the Brahmanical and both of and of Buddhist faiths. So, countless numbers of images were cut into shapes at several centers for their installation in numberless temples and shrines. Let me show you one of the examples of sculptures from Gupta period. This is the famous Vishnu sculpture which we even discussed in the last slide, and this is the sculptures depicting Buddha. These are some of the famous sculptures from Gupta period. So among the finest examples of the Gupta sculpture, the images of Buddha in large numbers stand out the foremost. The seated image of Buddha belonging to Sarnath has been rightly regarded as the finest of all the Buddha images in India. Let me show you that picture. Here, the seated image. The style of Gandhara school of art and sculptures had attained an unprecedented excellence during the Gupta period. This style had originally developed in Mathura, which was carried in perfection in Sarnath, and where Buddha, Sarnath is the place where Buddha had turned the wheel of law and gave his first sermon, and his uh, the the rule, the wheel of law was basically was gained significance from this Sarnath place. So Gupta sculptures outgrew the sculptural face of Bharhut and Sanchi. Though in Sanchi and Bharhut, both the places, the Buddhist sculpture art was doing fine, but Gupta architecture actually surpasses that art. And during the Gupta period, the spiritual and religious themes dominated the field of sculptures, as we saw the sculptures of divinities, Buddhas, and all. So, Shiva, Vishnu. So, most of the sculptures focused on gods. The sculptures were rather exquisite, and the figures were proportionate and balanced. So, they were not using the imbalanced sort of imaginary sculptures. Rather, their sculptures were giving you the perfect ratio of head and legs and the torso area. The sculptures implemented exotic gestures and postures, and the figures appeared to have fitted attire. So, one can say the flavor of Gupta architecture is, you can see this flavor with the Shiva Parvati relics which was found in Kosam. And they were found in the Ramayana panel in Devgarh as well, and also in the Sarnath. The Buddhist images were representative of Mathura school of art, which had attained an unprecedented excellence during the Gupta architecture. The sculptural tradition in Gupta Age speaks of the artistic fineness and brilliance of the Gupta sculptures. The standing Buddha of Mathura and colossal copper statue of Buddha, which is now in British Museum, there are some other excellent examples of the Gupta sculpture. The Hindu images too went by the physical beauty of their figures, dignity of their divinity, and graces of their spiritual being. So, among the best examples, if we talk about what are the fine examples of Hindu images, the Vishnu image of Mathura and Vara image of Udayagiri, which we discussed in our last lecture, the preceding lecture, they are one of the considered as one of the fine examples of Gupta art and architecture. So, now the sculpture part is complete. Let's move to the art of painting in Gupta period. The excellence of art painting was yet another glory of Gupta age, and the fresco paintings on the walls and ceilings of world famous Ajanta caves are the brightest example of the refined art of the Gupta age. For millions of art lovers from all parts of the world, Ajanta is like a place of pilgrimage. Apart from the architecture and sculpture, paintings had constituted a significant position in Gupta period. During the Gupta period, the paintings had assumed a secular character. The cave paintings of Ajanta, Badami, Bagh were the representation of the Gupta paintings. The cave paintings mainly depicted the Jataka stories and life of Lord Buddha. The Buddhist Padampani painting, this particular painting I am talking about, the Padampani painting of Ajanta represents the Buddhist standing in a Tribhanga style. His face depicts a youth with jeweled crown atop on his head here, holding a white lotus in his right hand. His face glows with pathos and sympathy for the fellow beings while looking below from heaven. Much of the Ajanta painting did not survive the centuries of time, as out of 29 caves, the paintings of 16th cave continued to exist till last century. The painters of Ajanta were at work for almost earlier, much time, perhaps from 1st century AD or even earlier than that. But it was during the Gupta period that most of the paintings were worked out. More than that, the art came to its perfection during this time. The artists were inspired by great ideas to draw their pictures in a superb way. They used bright colors. They adapted spiritual themes as well as secular themes as the subject matter of the drawing. The scene of their painting looked most natural and figure most lifelike. They painted the figures of Buddha, depicted his previous births, and showed the incidents of his life as taken from the Jataka stories. They also worked out other themes to represent the realities of life and its existence. The Buddhists were set under the this. If we talk about the Jataka stories, uh, which are depicted in this painting, as you can see, the Buddhist is sitting under a Bodhi tree, and he felt that the moment of, I'm just telling you the story which this painting is actually depicting, telling. So he just felt that the moment of enlightenment was approaching. So at this time, Mara is, you can say, equivalent to Kamdev of our Hindu mythology, but in Mara is taken as an evil spirit in Buddhism. So Mara feared that the Bodhisattva would gain light and offer the path of salvation to others. So Mara decided to approach Buddha. He tried to persuade him to abandon his search. Then he tempted with him prize of power, that you please quit this search of enlightenment, and I'll give you the power, endless power. But Buddha said, no, I will go on in my search. Then he asked his daughters, here, you'll see what I'm trying to suggest. He asked his daughters to dance before him and lured the Buddha to the life of pleasure. But Buddha again was not turned from his path of righteousness. Then Mara summoned his demons here. Mara summoned his demon, and he made an assault of Gautam Buddha and tried to dislodge him from his seat. The Buddha called upon earth to witness his devotion in all his previous lives and in the present life. So you can see Buddha is touching earth here. So he is actually calling upon goddess earth to witness his devotion. The earth goddess responded to his appeal, and Mara fled defeated. So during the next night, Gautam Buddha rose from the state of being a Bodhisattva, and he became a Buddha, the enlightened one, who had achieved total understanding of everything. So the paintings in Ellora and Bagh caves were also held in high standards. Good portion of these works have not survived. Painting being a very delicate thing, it fails to resist the havoc of nature. The Indian art influenced the art outside as well. The Indian fresco paintings were imitated in Central Asia, and its influence was entered deep into the Buddhist China as well. So this is it for the Buddha. Sorry, I'm telling Buddha. I'm saying Buddha. This is it for the Gupta age, and I hope you will be able to answer almost all the questions asked from be it from the sculpture part, be it from the painting part, be it from the temple part, brick temple part, freestanding temple parts, or be it from the cave parts. So that's it for now. I'll be meeting you people soon with another lecture for you possible. Thank you for watching. Till then, stay connected and do visit our website www.decipheris.com. Thank you and take care. Bye bye.